It's no secret that psychedelics change consciousness. It's no secret that they're revolutionary. I mean, we've known this for a while. What is absolutely fascinating to me is how easily that culture was dismissed. So that today, a simple stereotype of a guy in a tie-dye saying something really weird will dismiss an entire hour of scientific research, vetted and proven, that a doctor can tell you about psychedelic medicine. One bad stereotype. And I believe, and I'm sure the people who live through it believe, that this is a direct result of the propaganda that began with the right wing and Reagan in 1980 and was inculcated into now two generations. My generation as Gen Xers, and then the Echo Boomers, who've like grown up thinking that like hippies were stupid and Woodstock was crazy, and you know, we should just, if you do drugs, they're bad, and yada yada yada. And this whole idea of the word drug and the word substance and all this stuff, it's like it's all basic programming meant to change like how we look at the whole thing by casting it in moral terms. You know, it's not, it's a health issue, it's a biochemical issue, it's a metabolic thing more than anything else. Ultimately, all the substances you put in your body are catalysts towards natural reactions. So what are we really talking about here? How do we differentiate between this drug here and this drug here? And what it all boils down to is it profitable? Can it be patented? Can it be used for social control? This is what I like to call the scattershot version of my talk, the sleep deprivation 2.0 version. I've lived through this myself, by the way. I mean, part of my whole journey involved me becoming a drug addict for 10 years. I was a crack addict, by the way. Like to smoke crack a lot. And I crossed the cultural divide and went into the part of society that they don't want nice middle-class white boys going into. And I saw exactly how that world operates. Because, you know, when you see a neighborhood flooded with drugs and flooded with guns, you know they had to come from somewhere. And as, you know, Dick Gregory used to say, our people don't own transport planes. Our people don't own semi-trucks. Our people don't manufacture submachine guns. You know, somebody had to come in and sell them all that stuff. Somebody had to move all that stuff from somewhere. You know, Jimmy down the block didn't move 500 kilos from Colombia. Somebody had to do that, right? Anyway, I'm sorry that I'm rambling on Palenque Norte because I've been really honored to be a part of this. And I'm really honored that I'm in the company of people that I am speaking in this series. It is a nice kind of completion to a long journey that at one point had me doubting I was going to get out. And I went through prison, and I went through recovery, and I put my life back together, and I faced down the ultimate question with suicide and was saved by shamanic medicine, by ayahuasca, literally saved at the last moment. When I had decided and stockpiled the drugs I was going to use to kill myself and decided on the date and everything, and then by chance a person I had only met once before on the day I got out of prison 4 months earlier dropped by this party I was at that I was invited to at the last second and told me about this ayahuasca when I uncontrollably blurted out to her that I was going to commit suicide when I went home. And I made a pact to stick around for 2 weeks until this ceremony came. I didn't know anything about it. I just kind of knew it was weird, and you threw up a lot. But I had like this whole death, rebirth, purging experience that like had me skipping home in the morning. And I started a whole new life on January 15th, 2006. And a year later, I got here. I started growing my hair on that day, and I like committed to going to Burning Man on that day. I can't tell you why. I just did. And I grew dreads down to here until this March. 7 years of healing that went into me. 7 years of work with this and other shamanic medicines and plants and MDMA, which was what got me sent to prison because I was turned on to MAPS's work almost 10 years ago and was taking it to try to get through the post-traumatic stress disorder that I had from a lifetime of violence and abuse and rape and, you know, street insanity being a drug addict. You know, so like I have such an incredible connection to this medicine and this culture It pains me to see how underground it's been forced. I mean, I'm very glad that MAPS has done their diligent work to get it out into the open and get a lot of great media these days. And getting to just start to maybe begin changing people's attitudes. But we still got a long way to go. And there are more police out here than there's ever been before. And as the head of like a very large sound camp that had to deal with this last year, they are out here in a way that they've never been before. And they're not out here to bust people. Why? Because almost everybody who comes here has money. And almost everybody who comes here is white. And they all go home to some productive endeavor, or they start all over again and get into the Burning Man cycle. Either way, they're not a threat. They're out here having fun, and we are taxing them for their fun. And that's what the police do here. They don't want to bust you because it costs too much money. It's too much paperwork. It's too much of a hassle to take you from here to Gerlach, Empire, Carroll, Pershing, Wapaho, Washoe, whatever it is, Reno, and bust you. So what they do is they tax you. And we're like shooting fish in a barrel out here. So they'll just find where we all are, and one by one go in and bust us and charge us as much as we can possibly imagine, because we will pay it, because it keeps us from going to prison. And they walk out of here millions of dollars richer. I don't know what pisses me off more, like being sent to prison over the use of the substances I choose, or allowing the police force to get fatter and richer and buy second cars for themselves over the use of my substances. It's a vehicle, and we have to find a way to stop it. And the thing is, like, I was blessed, at Boom I had a huge European crowd, and they're really plugged into this stuff, and they're politically active. I got to tell you, I could do 20, 30 gigs across this country and barely draw, 100 people talking about this stuff, because people don't want to hear it. It bores them. It scares them. It means they have to do something. It's a drag, man. It's a fucking drag. Why do I want to be involved? Why do I want to go fight that? I'm fine. They're going to leave me alone. I'm just going to do my shit over here. Why do I have to go get political about it? And you're right, you don't, if you can get away with it. But do you really want to hide? Like, do you really want to live under the fear of criminal justice and losing your life? Do you really want to feel ashamed to not be able to tell other people, hey, you know what? Like, I use psychedelics. I'm afraid they're going to look at you with that crazy, like, oh, you're one of those people, aren't you? Fear is an amazing motivator. So I always encourage people to speak out, to own your shit, to stand proud with your use, to talk about what it's done for you in a positive way to everybody that you can. Don't be a proselytizer. Don't be obnoxious, but just make things happen. Get involved in your communities. Get involved in initiatives to change laws. Get involved in, initiatives to repeal drug laws. Like, try to do something. But more than anything else, tell your friends, tell your family, tell your mom that it's not all that they told you, that it's actually something different. It's on all of us to make this the world that we want. And if we really want the freedom for our children that we've been fighting for and our parents were fighting for, then something's got to give. And we are in this unique moment in time where we just might see that opening to make something happen. So keep your eyes on it. And I'm going to open up for some questions if anybody has them. I know that given the disjointed nature of my sleep-deprived talk, if you don't have questions for me, I won't take offense to it.
We love you, Charles.
Thank you, Ken.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
You're an inspiration. I would wonder if you had some comments to make about, as a cultural agent that's basically advocating for a criminal culture at this time, what are the consequences of that for you? Or just speak to that a little bit. I've been thinking about it a lot, about how people like McKenna and Leary and things we were talking about earlier, the price that brought into their personal lives to stand up and be honest and just speak the truth. And how's that affecting you now?
I don't think anyone really takes me seriously, so I think I skirt through a lot. It's different now because I'm in my 40s and I cut my dreads off, and I'm not a fire spinner, and I'm not kind of in all of these easily dismissible things that people can just look at somebody and chuck them out. But I mean, you got to look at it on paper. What am I? I'm like a 3-time felon, drug convictions all up and down the block, a history of crack addiction, post-traumatic stress disorder. So I've had like insane behavior my whole life. Like if I was running for president and they had to get dirt on me, trust me, it would take a year just to get through all the dirt. I mean, it's like crazy. So I don't think that I've ever been like a threat in that sense to the establishment, because I don't fit in. I never have. I'm kind of a freak of nature. Leary was Harvard. He was Harvard. He was with the best and the brightest, and he was of the proper class. And they had ideations that he got from Huxley, you know, about spreading it up the chain. And we have the story about Kennedy and all that. I mean, think about that. So, like, I think that people like me and, like, you know, even like Daniel Pinchbeck, like, nobody really, like, even though he's kind of the most visible of this kind of cadre of writers, like, I mean, he's not, like, perceived as a threat. He's perceived as, like, you know, somebody who, like, has his spiel and thinks that he's a big lizard from the Mayans. And that's kind of like the attitude of the government. Like, who is this person? Whatever, this is not a threat. But as things change and as, like, movements rise and as people are looking for something new, I think that there are people that who are speaking their mind now that will become those leaders and will become those threats. I don't know if that's going to be me or not. I don't aspire for it. What I do is to speak my truth, because it's the deal I made with that power up there when it gave me a second life. That power said, I'll let you live and I'll give you joy. And I said, I will give you my life back for that. And I will spend my life spreading this word and talking about my shame, so that you can see that there is pride in shame, that we can own it and get past it, you know? And so I don't do this to organize a movement. I gave up on politics. I used to be an organizer for the Green Party. I used to get into the street and get my ass beat by police. I thought that was cool. You know, I cried for the Occupy movement. They were fools. They never should have done that. They just set themselves up for two things. One, to get beat to a pulp, and two, to justify the police presence from here on out. To normalize the sight of Ninja Turtles, as I call them, riot cops, marching down the streets, of tanks and sonic dispersal cannons in the streets, of all of this high-tech weaponry that is called non-lethal crowd control. You know, low-frequency guns that make you shit yourself. These are all real. I've seen them. High-frequency things that shatter your eardrums and disorient you. Microwaves that hit you and fry your system for a second to the point where you drop in compliance. Like, they spend a lot of money on this stuff and they want to use it. And they know what's coming, you know. Everything that's going on here is because they know what's coming, and they've known for a long time. And as things start to collapse, people rise up. And the best way to control them, they think, is through direct force. So the true revolutionary leaders, I think, are going to be the ones that figure out how to not go in the street and how to disseminate the revolution by other means. I'd like to be a part of it, I could say. But at this point, you know, my friends that are in, like, the military, CIA, you know, intelligence, you know, they're not, like, operative type people, but they're sources and they're people that you talk to. And FBI in particular, they are obsessed with Arabs, foreigners. I mean, they literally feel like they're being besieged on all sides, and everything at home is to keep everybody at home tamped down. So I wish I could, like, give you an answer that didn't sound either like trite or megalomaniacal, you know, because I just don't know. It's so easy to discredit someone these days, too. You know, with the internet, you can have, like, a fake video and a rumor totally ruin somebody overnight if they have a big enough reach. I also think that the real revolution is going to come from women, personally. I think enough guys have tried to lead the revolution, and it's always the same thing because men have the same intention. We always enter into a war paradigm. And we got to stop that war paradigm. Man, at least the feminine will allow us to get out of that war paradigm and get into something that is a collaborative negotiation of disputes and grievances, you know. But I don't know what that's going to look like, you know.
As I understand it, Oregon and Colorado are looking at legalization this November. What do you think? Where do you think that's going to head? Do you think that's going to start paving a way for some sane drug policy in this country?
I think a memo went down from the White House recently that said, don't interfere with legalization because it's an awesome opportunity for us to make some money. I think they see that not only can they tax it, but they can also tax people who they'll still bust you for it, but instead of it being a criminal offense, it'll be a ticketable offense, and they'll just add 20 more cops to every force to go out and bust every weed smoker with a ticket, and they're going to start making money that way. That's why I think the shift happened. I mean, Prop, what was it? I'm sorry, 18? The legalization initiative in California got shot down because it had more money, and because conservative voters were angry. They felt that they had been duped by Proposition 215. Moderates and conservatives, because, almost 90% of the state voted for it. It was like overwhelmingly positive in favor of medicinal marijuana in 1996, except that the conservative and moderates thought that they were voting for terminally ill patients to be able to have cannabis in their last days. Not like, well, I take it for my, right? People abusing it. The black market getting involved and turning out, doctor mills and all this stuff, and get your recommendation online. That shit pisses off the right wing, and they got really upset by it. And what they've been trying to figure out since then is how we can integrate legalization into it. And I think they want to do it. I know that Philip Morris has bought 50,000 acres in Mendocino County. I know that there is a patent out, not only for like a Monsanto type cannabis plant, but also a killer weed that can be dropped into the the existing females all over the so like basically one runaway male plant in the right place can wipe out like hundreds and hundreds of acres of female plants and just pollinate them all at once. And it's like a ripple effect. And there's genetically modified versions of this that have been patented, that I've heard people talk about. I definitely have heard about and seen the documentation on like the whole land buying and the whole like trying to get inside the industry. I think we should be pretty ready to see pot get legalized starting in small places and roaming around just like the 70s. And, depending on the economics, it'll either like continue to grow until it's not an issue, or, there'll be another conservative backlash in 20 years. I don't know. Awesome. Wow. Thanks for coming out on a Tuesday, guys. I appreciate it. Thanks for putting up with my rambling, sleep-deprived